In our U.S. Bank Economic 360, how about unicorns for a topic this Thanksgiving weekend? That's the word used to describe the wave of startup companies that have been valued at more than $1 billion. Now that some unicorns have come to market, we're starting to get a clearer picture of whether they're worth that value. U.S. Bank Vice President and Senior Portfolio Manager Mike Denneman joins Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith to sort out the unicorn situation. Mike and Jamie.
Thanks, Beck. Mike, thanks for being here today.
Good morning.
Let's start out by recapping a little bit.
Sure.
What exactly is a unicorn?
Sure. So, this is a topic we touched on this past summer, the so-called unicorns, which, as Peg said, these are startup companies primarily in the technology area that are, in theory, valued more than $1 billion. In some cases, $5 or even $10 billion. And so naturally, this gains attention because those are just eye-popping numbers. Remember, these are startup companies. Many don't even turn a profit, but that implied valuation suggests that they are worth more than centuries-old companies that are household names. So, even though we know, a lot of those unicorn-type names from dealing with them every day, Uber, Spotify, Pinterest, it's that dollar amount that draws a lot of skepticism.
Right. Those are some huge numbers. How are those valuations derived?
Yeah. Well, so believe it or not, in many ways, it's nothing more than, say, maybe educated guesswork. So, if you're a publicly traded company, it's very simple to figure out your valuation. Take Procter, for instance. We know how many P&G shares are out there. We know the price of those shares. Multiply those numbers. That's what the market thinks Procter & Gamble is worth. But if you're a startup company, it's a little bit different. So, you've got an idea for a company, but you don't have any funding. You need to go to a venture capitalist to get some of that working capital. You pitch the idea, they like it, they give you cash in exchange for a portion of your business. Now we can start to assume a value. So kind of like Shark Tank on steroids,
right,
if you will. A very simple example. Say you've got an idea, but no funding. You come to me, I say, Jamie, I love it, that's a great idea. I'm going to give you $1 billion working capital for half of your company. Now we know what your company is, in theory, valued at, $2 billion. My $1 billion implies that your half is also $1 billion, $2 billion, bingo, now you're a unicorn.
Okay.
But is that what your company is really worth? And that's the rub. I think so. I'm putting my money in. I'd like to believe I'll get my money back. But again, that's just an educated guess. The IPO is where the rubber meets the road. That's where we find out what is the market really willing to pay.
Well, how have they been working out? Obviously not as high as we were thinking.
Well, okay, so yeah, if you're a startup, the IPO is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But you have to remember that IPOs tend to do best when the market is very strong. This year we've had anything but a strong market. So it hasn't been a disaster, but it hasn't been easy either. We've seen a couple different scenarios play out for some of the unicorns. Earlier this year we had some come to market. The IPO was successful, but the price of those shares has absolutely tumbled since then, so worth much less today than they were just a few months ago. Other unicorns have opted to postpone their IPOs. They'd rather sit it out and see if the market conditions improve. And then others have come to market recently, but at much lower prices. So they did go ahead and sell shares, but the market wasn't going to support a huge valuation, so the price of those shares was below the expectation. So it hasn't been an implosion of the unicorns, but it hasn't been easy either. So again, that just encourages more of this skepticism. Are these companies really worth what those eye-popping valuations
So they got to
suggest?
put a lot of thought before they do decide to go that IPO route.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, as usual, great information from you. Look forward to hearing more about it as we see more of those, go down that path.
Absolutely.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jeff.